Hello everyone, my name is Mark, I'm your driver, and today we're taking this 2025 Toyota Prius all-wheel drive for a bit of a spirited drive and a handling review. Let's get into it. Now, I am aware that this is a pretty niche video topic to be talking about the handling of the Prius, because everyone here in North America just loves to pile on about how this thing can't go around corners, how it's got really skinny tires, how it's just the least capable thing out there, and I honestly think that you're all a little bit wrong. See, overseas they'll actually gut these things, strip these things, put them on better suspension and tires, and they actually go racing in them. I don't know if it's an official league or not, but they do race Priuses. Granted, they are the plug-in hybrid variants, which are a little bit faster and front-wheel drive, whereas this is all-wheel drive, but I do think that actually works to our advantage, especially with the skinnier tires. So, in this video, I would like to see where we went wrong in thinking that Priuses just can't seem to do anything at all other than sip fuel. And I want to show you guys how you can maybe approach this thing to get some better speed out of it, and maybe impress your friends by keeping up with their much more performance-oriented cars if you do find yourself on a bit of a back road. So with that being said, I'm going to put some facts and figures up on the screen. You guys can feel free to pause if you'd like, so you guys can gather in and digest as much information about this car as you can before you make up your mind and click off the video. So do feel free to pause, and we'll resume in a second. Alright, so now I'm going to give you some of my thoughts about the drive, and I mean, let's be honest, this is not a sports car, it wasn't made to be a sports car, and it's not set up like one. The brakes are too small, the tires are too skinny, and the steering does not have enough feedback. So, what actually makes it good? Well, to start, honestly, the size of the steering wheel. I don't know if you can see, I mean, I do have pretty big hands, but the size of the steering wheel is incredibly small. I mean, the ratio itself is pretty quick off-center, but just having a smaller, more go-karty wheel just makes it that much more engaging. So although there is no feedback really to speak of, I mean, if we just look here at low speed, it's so light, and you can kind of hear some electric whirring from the power steering rack there, but yeah, there's really no feedback whatsoever to speak of. But the fact that you just don't have to turn the wheel very much to get this thing to go around corners is really quite a joy. And then the second thing that is always going to be the first thing to give up are the tires. This thing is almost Camry sized, but these tires are the same width as those found on a Toyota Corolla, which just means there is very little contact patch to be had. And combine that with the fact that, I mean, these are just eco-conscious tires, it means that really you're not going to be able to carry very much corner speed at all. So honestly, I mean, I was surprised given what this thing is and what this thing isn't, and the width of the tires. I was surprised that if you just kind of keep an eye on your cornering speeds and entry speeds, they don't make that much noise if you drive them under the limit, which I'll grant you isn't very high to begin with, but it does a pretty good job. If you just are smart about your line and have half a clue what you're doing, these don't really need to make any noise, and you can carry some pretty decent speed by just opening up the corner a little bit, giving this thing more time before the corner to settle into it. It's not horrible, but I would definitely recommend wheels and tires. Now, the other thing that you should be pretty mindful of while we're going downhill here are the brakes. They are not very big, and although you do get regen, they do tire quickly. So although they do stop the car very well and very effectively, the pedal is pretty mushy on account of all of the regen and all the electronics going on, but they do a very effective job at slowing the car down. Now, how many corners could you realistically do that for? Frankly, not very many. After, I would say, 2 or 3 hard braking zones, you do detect a bit of an odor coming from these brakes. So although the pedal stays consistent, I don't know how much the braking system underneath would be suffering, and I think it would just be a better idea if you put some brakes on this thing or just tried to rely on regen. But as I shall now explain, that might not be the best idea, especially with a nearly full battery. Now, it kind of seems counterintuitive to not want to have a full battery, and you can see here that it is almost full at the moment, but the thing is that at least with the non-plug-in hybrid version, this regular hybrid, the battery's just not very big. It's just under a kilowatt hour, unlike the 13 kilowatt hours found in the plug-in hybrid or prime variant, which means your headroom for being able to regenerate energy and help with braking performance is severely reduced. So you don't have that headroom to keep relying on regen to help offset the smaller brakes. So what's going to happen is it's not going to be able to regen any more than what's in the battery, and then you're not going to have regen anymore. It's going to need to use the friction brakes, and because those are small and started to smell, that isn't really how you'd want to be driving it. The brakes would fade very, very quickly if you didn't have regenerative braking. And if you continue to pile on that regen and the car doesn't know what to do with it, because Toyotas are very, very conservative with their energy deployment strategy, which means it's a very fancy way of saying the battery doesn't really like to be full, the battery doesn't really like to be empty, and it doesn't like to go in between those two states very quickly either. Which means even if I give it full throttle, it's probably not using as much battery power as you think. If you have a really full battery from regen and from spirited driving, just accelerating again isn't quite enough to get rid of that extra electricity that you've been recuperating so aggressively. So what ends up happening is that it has to keep the engine on, it has to use MG1 to spin up the engine and try to bleed off and evacuate some of that extra power that just can't really be used by the system because it's so conservative. And that leads me to heat. Now, the reason I bring up heat is because, like any other car, when you drive it hard, this generates heat. And like I also mentioned, this isn't a sports car, so it's not completely equipped to deal with it. Again, sorry, really loud bridge, but it's just not quite equipped to deal with the amount of heat from long, say, canyon sessions. So you'll find that if the battery's fully charged, it's going to generate more heat when it's charging and discharging. And this thing doesn't really ever get a break from generating heat. If I accelerate, that's heat that's going into the system. When I brake, it's regenerating and that's putting heat into the system. And it just doesn't really ever get a break from generating heat. So you'll find that in some of the clips, not here, it was actually dialing power back to around 70 or 80% in some cases to just make sure that the system wasn't getting ahead of itself and could actually effectively deal with that heat. So it's still reasonably quick, but you will find that coming out of corners, it just doesn't quite have that same electric acceleration or urgency that you would be expecting. And that's a bit of a shame. I was really hoping that this would do a little bit better without limiting power, but it does limit it a little bit. It's not the end of the world. Now, I'm sure you've probably already heard it by now, both in the underhood mic section and in the segment that we just did, but yes, the ECVT does make a fair bit of noise, and it is, I'll admit, it's a little bit droney when you are driving it spiritedly. The thing is that, at least with the ECVT, I know that it is trying its best to deliver full power all the time. The thing with that is that because it doesn't have any gears to speak of, it's a Planetary style ECVT, so it doesn't have first, second, third, is that it does take a fraction of a second to get the engine and motors sorted and where they need to be when you're exiting a corner. So the best way, in my opinion, to drive around that is just to get on the power that much sooner, is just to try to preempt what the system is going to do when you put your foot down and try to do it that little bit earlier so that by the time you're coming out of the corner, you're not thinking, oh, why is the car having to catch up to me? But yeah, it does make a fair bit of noise, but I will admit it is very responsive. And if you can get on that power that little bit earlier, there's really no delay. It really is just power all the time, except for when it gets hot, like I mentioned. Now, the last thing I want to talk about is the traction control system and some of the quirks with that. If you want to turn traction off, you can do that while you're rolling. It does take a few seconds, but to get stability control off, you do unfortunately need to be at a full stop and hold it for a really, really long time. Now, what I found was interesting when it was turned on is that it actually kills power to the rear motors when it has a slip event, which I thought was very, again, counterintuitive, because what you'd want to be doing is you'd want to be relieving the front axle of some of its duty and allow it to steer the car. But what I find happens is that it just backs off the rear power so that the car defaults to a safe understeer state for those who obviously aren't driving this spiritedly and can just step on the brakes. I did find that that symptom was pretty much gone with everything turned off, but the constant messages on the dashboard that are undismissible are constantly blocking the all-wheel drive display widget, which makes it very difficult to tell what it's actually doing. So I can't really tell you if it's working any different because I can't see it working. All right, so to wrap things up, and before I go, we're gonna go for one last spirited drive, and I'll try to talk you through everything that's happening. So full power, traction and stability are on the brakes. Brakes feel good. Not a ton of traction control intervention there, but we can see that it is starting to dial that power back a little bit. We'll maybe try to go into B mode to keep that engine running and use it for a bit of compression braking instead of regen. So you can see there, even if the traction control doesn't completely deploy, if the front wheels do chirp, that rear motor just seems to let go, which is very strange. So yeah, like I was saying, it does start to dial the power back, although I'll grant you today is a very hot day, so I don't really blame it. But in terms of actual handling character, it is a lot of fun. The steering is, like I've said, it's lifeless, but it turns in pretty eagerly, which I think is very cool for something like this. As far as a regular car goes, this is incredibly fun to drive, and despite its shortcomings, you can absolutely hustle this Prius around without making a ton of noise with the tires, which I thought was surprising. I thought that these would be screaming for help at the first sign of any spirited inclinations, but in fact, the tires have done a pretty good job holding up today. So yeah, guys, the tires have done a good job. That was wildly in my lane, so you do have to watch out. But yeah, tires have done a good job. The brakes have done a surprisingly good job. We'll see going down the hill here. Braking, not trying to get into ABS or anything because it does sound and feel a bit ugly in this car. But yeah, like I've been saying, you can absolutely hustle this thing around at pretty decent speeds without, I don't know if you can hear it, there's not really any tire squeal going on, which was the goal with this video, is to drive it as it is, meet it where it's at. So yeah, guys, to wrap things up, I really like how this drives. Yes, it will understeer if you overcook it into a corner. Yes, the tires are very skinny. And no, it's not a sports car, performance car, but the steering, despite having no feedback, is very engaging just based on how quick it is to turn in and how small the wheel is. And the overall dynamics of this car are pretty decent. It will rotate, I don't mean oversteer, but it will rotate when you lift off, and regen does help with that. And yeah, I mean, the chassis is just very well sorted. It's just the tires and the brakes that let this thing down. The all-wheel drive helps a little bit, but mostly with the traction and stability control turned off. So yeah, guys, I hope you have enjoyed this video. Loud bridge once again. But yeah, I really hope you guys have enjoyed, and I will see you all in the next one.